Hey, welcome to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. I have a remarkably fascinating game played by living persons, and the time limit was 5 minutes. So they really had to play fast. And the people on the chessboard, the living chessboard out in the yard, had to move fairly fast. So this is a great game for this kind of play. Pawn king 4, pawn queen bishop 3. Pawn queen 4, immediately bumping both pawns, and pawn queen 4, challenging the center, of course. Pawn will take the pawn, and pawn will take the pawn. So we're even Steven. Pawn queen bishop 4, let's keep bipping at the center. And pawn king 3, let's make sure we don't leave the pawn by itself as a weakness. Knight to queen, bishop 3, knight to king, bishop 3. We are making progress. This is an amazing game. Knight to bishop 3, got the two knights out. Now he's going to prepare to castle. Bishop king 2. I'm going to mark this off so I don't mess this up. Bishop to queen 3. Again, development, speedy development, which is only a temporary imbalance. So you have to make something happen with your speedy development if you at all can. White is also going to castle. A great game so far. No action yet, but they are preparing for action. And now knight, bishop 3. Rook, put him on the file. Now, it's not an open file. It's a partial file, but put him on the file. Develop the rook. Knight to queen, knight 5. Here comes the knight tickling the bishop. Now, of course, the bishop isn't going to be taken. No. Bishop, bishop 1. However, I don't know about going back to the original square. And now black is going to take the pawn. Pawn takes pawn. And the bishop will take the pawn. So the pawn is gone. And queen knight to queen 4, bumping back up to the center. And the knight will take the knight. And the pawn will take the knight. So the exchanges are coming quick. Bishop comes, bumps to back to queen 3, and the bishop now comes to king knight 5. Very interesting. And the bishop will come to king knight 5. And the knight now begins to break into territory. Let's see what is going on with this knight. The bishop will take the bishop here, and the queen will take the bishop. Getting development while exchanging a piece is not a bad idea. The queen comes to bishop 2. So they've all pretty much developed, but black appears a little bit better coordinated, although keep your eye on the fact that the rook is across from that queen. Will black pay attention to that is the question. And then queen rook to bishop 1. Take the file, directly challenge the queen. So the queen comes over here to king 2. Now a rook behind a queen on an open file can be a very strong setup. And that's, I say open file. We know that's a partial file, but he's got the queen backing him up. So the queen comes to king 2, and now the pawn to bishop 4, supporting the center again, right? Pawn to king rook 3, we're going to tickle the bishop. So rather than do something passive at this point, like here, because then it doesn't make sense to do a passive move. It's better to exchange. So the bishop takes the knight. there, and then the pawn will take the bishop. And now, what do we do with the knight? The knight we don't do anything with. Now, this is a very important lesson. Now, we've been focusing on the center, as both of these players have, right? But when we analyze the board, just because a piece is threatened does not mean we have to react to each and every threat, because that puts us into passive play. Is there a threat that black can make? Yes, there is. Queen will come here and go check. Very important move here, because he's not playing reaction to his opponent, and he's not playing passively. He's not worrying about bumping up one of these pawns or moving the rook to here. You know, he's not going to do any of that noise. That's a waste of time. That does nothing. The queen here going check really does do something. Let's see what happens. King to rook 1. So no more check. And now again, another aggressive move. Queen to rook 5. Very interesting move here. What's that going to set up? He sacrifices the knight. Did you notice that? He is making aggressive moves instead of worrying about saving one of his pieces. And the reason he can make the aggressive moves, now that doesn't mean we do this every game. No. We've got to see what the board looks like, right? So we have to read that board. But we have an open file on the knight file against the white king that can and ought to be utilized. And he's in a better position than the white player. So the sacrifice of the knight is an interesting psychology against the white player. Let's see what I mean. The bishop pawn will take the pawn, now threatening the bishop. And now the queen comes to bishop 1, and blam, the rook takes the pawn. Utilizing the partial file, not passive moves, sacrificing the knight to make sure the rook can get into here, and the queen's covering the rook. And now there's nothing he can do to save the game. For instance, if he does go here, it's checkmate. Well, it's not checkmate. The queen can move there. And now it's checkmate. So I was a step off. But what an interesting little game with a magnificently quick time limit for living people out on the yard-sized chessboard to move where they're supposed to move, as each player calls out from a high tower so that they can overlook the entire chessboard. And what a terrific finish, because black pieces player did not play passively. He utilized the open file. He utilized his pieces better because, again, all of his pieces are developed, and he put them on terrific squares to get to the king, and black left one piece undeveloped. White left one piece undeveloped. So there is your Backyard Professor chess game. I really enjoyed this game. I played through it several times. I said, all right, that's fun to know, to see the difference between passive and energetic play. And this called for energetic play. So thank you much for all your support and your enthusiasm for the game with me. And be good, do well, make lots of friends. I say that every time, but I'm not just trying to repeat it without meaning. and make the world a better place. Try to make 3 people smile, giggle, and or laugh today. It'll amaze you the magic that works in your life. It's really kind of fun to do. I promise. Just try it. And I will see you in the next Backyard Professor Chess videos. You guys have a great time playing through this game as much as you want.